Hello and welcome to Embracing Extraordinary podcast. I'm Deidre.
And I'm Jodie, and we're here to create a space for you to explore, expand, and embrace that extraordinary exists, is possible, and how extraordinary you truly are.
To hug, hold, accept, and embrace it to create your most extraordinary life. Welcome back to Embracing Extraordinary. I'm Deidre.
And I'm Jodie. Hello.
And today we're going to chat to you. Well, actually, today we were going to chat to you about the golden thread. But after chatting further, we felt that we needed to discuss what extraordinary actually means to us. As you'll hear this word thrown around quite a bit, because it's actually the foundation of everything that we are about. So we thought that it's really timely to dive into a conversation that really gets to the heart of what this podcast and also what our mission is all about. So what we want to do instead today is really explore the difference between embrace your extraordinary and embracing extraordinary. Because at first they might sound really similar, but they hold two really distinct, powerful meanings. And we would love to dive into this and share with you what this actually means for us. So, Jodes, do you want to start and share your thoughts on what the difference between embracing extraordinary and embrace your extraordinary means to you?
Yeah, totally. Thank you, honey. I guess for me, the first thing to really think about then is what does the word extraordinary even mean? Like, why are we using that word in the first place? We touched on this, I think it was the last episode, where extraordinary means beyond ordinary or something that really is quite remarkable. And we believe we all are, and there's so much extraordinary in the world. And, originally we were talking about calling our podcast Embrace Your Extraordinary, and then we've changed that to Embracing Extraordinary. And it was only through conversation even yesterday where you've asked me, what are the differences to you? And I knew that they were different, but just having that conversation with you, and when I had to write it down, I'm like, oh, wow, they really are quite different and they really mean something different. And then we've just chatted about it some more and we're like, oh, this is what we've got to talk about today. So first of all, understanding the word extraordinary, that it means beyond ordinary or something remarkable. How I distinguish the difference between embracing extraordinary and embrace your extraordinary is one's more a concept and one's more personal. So embracing extraordinary is more about embracing. So embracing means to accept willingly or hug or hold. So accepting that extraordinary even exists or extraordinary anything is possible, whether that be extraordinary wellness, extraordinary relationships, extraordinary dreams coming to reality, extraordinary job, extraordinary feelings, any of it, that it's possible. So the concept of the podcast, why we've decided to call it Embracing Extraordinary, is because what we plan on doing is bringing conversations, teaching guests, where all of our conversations are around embracing the fact that anything extraordinary is possible or extraordinary anything is possible. And the other way to also look at that, and this gets deeper into our concepts, is we believe that what we might think is ordinary, when we look a lot closer, it really is quite extraordinary. And that's what leads into embracing your extraordinary. We think we might be normal, ordinary, everyday humans, which we are. But when we take a closer look at what we are, who and what we are, it really is quite remarkable and quite extraordinary. And that's where the distinction between embracing extraordinary and embrace your extraordinary kind of comes to life for me too, is because, and our tagline for the podcast, which is dream bigger, embrace your extraordinary, and live more fully, we have to start with some sort of dream or concept or desire of whatever it is that we want. Where do we want to land? And then in order to do that, we've got to be able to embrace the fact that extraordinary exists, or something really beautiful can really exist. And then to do that, embrace your extraordinary then is the process. So in order for me to do that, in order for you to do that, embracing what's extraordinary about you and what makes you tick, what holds you back, what moves you forward, all the moving parts, which we'll discuss a lot more when we talk about true nature and the golden thread. But it's pretty much an acknowledgement of you've got to embrace what's extraordinary about you to be able to then have the result, which is live more fully. So thank you so much for asking me what's the difference for you, because it wasn't really until I really had to put pen to paper and even discuss it that even I really understood the differences. So embracing extraordinary is the concept of extraordinary, and that's why we've named our podcast that, so we can have many, many, many conversations around all the moving parts even in the world that are extraordinary, but then embrace your extraordinary is a little bit closer to home, where we make it very personal, more about you. So yeah. How about you, honey? Like, I love the way that you shared it before too. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think you've definitely explained it really, really beautifully. But, I love that definition of, first of all, embracing extraordinary as it's, that ability, I think, to accept and open up to this whole concept, first of all, of extraordinary. That to me really emphasizes limitless possibilities of what extraordinary can actually mean. So it's kind of making it, I suppose, quite a broad, universal, but even maybe an aspirational concept. And then, like, that next part of that is how do we bring it down or dig deeper into embracing your extraordinary? It's that next layer that digs that little bit deeper. And I think, to me, embracing your extraordinary as well is it's owning that, owning your uniqueness and taking personal ownership of who and what you are, which is your true nature. And really being able to hold those qualities gladly. And it's like that real kind of inward journey of self-acceptance that really fuels that outward creation there. And I think that we have to start with that dream. So it's that ability to envision the extraordinary possibilities that are available to us and really thinking about what's possible, and then being able to embrace our extraordinary and step into our personal power, in a sense, to claim that, I think, is really critical to allow us to bring our dreams to life. And then, that last part, live more fully, to me is about living extraordinary. But to do that, we need to embrace all those parts of us that are our true nature, that make us extraordinary. So I think, it was such a good question to really delve deeper into it, because I think everything that we talk about, we really like to get that real clear understanding of, well, what does this actually mean? It's not just a jargon word or a throwaway comment, that there's depth and there's meaning within that. So it was a really good concept to ponder.
And it's so important for our understanding as well. We've been talking about these concepts for quite some time and living them and doing them. And so when we ask thought-provoking questions to each other, it makes us really think more deeply about, well, what is this concept about? Why are we saying this bit? And so it helps bring it to life, which I really love. And it's something that really is beautiful about the conversations that we get to have and what we get to share as well, which is something that I really value and appreciate. So thank you. I just want to extend on what you've just said a little bit more about when we discuss what is it about you that's extraordinary and what is it that you can even embrace. We come from a perspective that we're multidimensional beings. We're energetic, multidimensional beings. We're way more than a physical body. We're emotional beings. We're the mind. We're energetic. We've got a nervous system. We work with mindset, heart set, body set, all of that. That's what we mean by when we look a little bit closer and we realize that what might seem ordinary is so much more than that, and that you really are quite extraordinary. You're more than 70 trillion cells that work together to make up you. But what makes those cells work, it's the energetics. It's so much of it. So that's why we created the podcast. That's why we're creating everything else that we're creating, so we can have this beautiful space and platform where we can bring these conversations to life. And with our EYE, so EYE standing for Embrace Your Extraordinary, with our framework, we try and bring that together in a simplified way. Because there's a
Yeah.
lot. When you look at the extraordinary, there is a lot, but it's also, you can bring it together and work out how to work it in more harmony. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it really helps us to appreciate that we are extraordinary and really not take those things for granted, which I think can be an easy thing to do, but really appreciate extraordinary. Yeah.
yeah. And what
Yeah.
seems ordinary actually is really extraordinary. And I love what you said, Dee, and we've
Yeah.
talked about this, what you said last week, and we've talked about this before. Imagine if every person could walk
Oh,
around knowing they're extraordinary, but so is the person next to
yeah.
them. Imagine the ripple effect of that if we can walk around and acknowledge, man, I'm extraordinary, and not in
Yeah.
a conceited way, just in a value and a beautiful appreciation way, that going, wow,
Yeah.
wow. And so are you, and so are you, and you, and you. Just the ripple effect that that can have in the world. We want
Yeah.
to create a more love-fueled world, and part of that is recognizing that we're all really, really are quite magical, and there's so
Yeah.
much more than meets the eye. So, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think we've spoken about this before, and I know from my own personal perspective as well, is that now that I've got more awareness of who and what I am and what makes me tick, what holds me back and what moves me forward, that I can really start to be the empowered creator of my reality. And I know, we were just talking about a couple of situations that are going on for me at this moment. And just to be able to make sense of all of the work that we've been doing, I'm able to move through this week with a lot more grace and a lot more flow versus trying to hold on so tight to outcomes. It just makes life so much easier. And it comes back to part of what we initially spoke about is we want to really help people remember how extraordinary they truly are. And that's definitely the work that I've been doing myself deeply over the last week or so.
So beautiful.
So,
And it's so empowering. And that's the whole purpose of all of it, is that liberation and that
yeah,
self-empowerment. And because we are human, that doesn't mean that life's rosy all the time. It doesn't mean that your crap doesn't come up, because it does. It comes up on a daily basis. This is not about walking
yeah,
around going, we're all extraordinary and everything's amazing all of the time. And yes, it would be wonderful if it is, and it can be, but it's also, the reality is life
yeah,
is like that. We do go through lots of ebbs and flows, but when you can have more appreciation for exactly what you just said, Dee, who you are, but also what you are, what
mm,
makes you tick, what's triggering you, what are your things that are coming up for you,
mm,
how to actually work with that, and realize that that's all part of the extraordinary you
yeah,
as well,
yeah,
and how to work with that, how to be with that. Because
yeah,
at the end of the day, all of it's energy. So it's working with your energy in all these different forms. But why? Like, at a very human level, so it's
yeah, absolutely.
empowering, it changes the whole way you can view yourself, the world, and the situations around you.
Yeah.
And that's our vision. That's why we're doing it. And that's what this podcast is about. It's what the Embrace Your Extraordinary space is about. And yeah.
And, definitely looking through that lens of the physical you, the personal you, and
Mm,
the energetic you
yeah.
has really helped me
Same.
have more of that freedom and that liberation in terms of how I choose to respond to situations that come up in my world.
Yeah,
Yeah, because as you
totally.
said, we are human
Yeah, totally. I experience it on a daily
and
basis
stuff
too.
comes up. Yeah.
And your turnaround time becomes a lot quicker, I think, and your
Yeah.
self-reflection process to be able to go, okay, what's actually really going on here? And that's part of acknowledging your true nature, which is really quite extraordinary as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And Joe, if there was one thing that you would kind of share with listeners around how they could start to maybe tap into the extraordinary, what would it be for you?
Probably just looking at nature. That's what's really helped me even just ponder the word extraordinary, and
Yeah.
thinking about the nature of human life. If you think about how we were even created, we start off with a sperm and an egg that within every millisecond it's multiplying, 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 then it creates all these organs, and then all of a sudden we have personality and brain waves, and that's remarkable. If you ever need a reminder that life is extraordinary. Yes, one, look at the embryo and how babies are formed, how humans are formed, but also looking at nature.
Correct.
The fact that we are revolving around the sun and the sun is hurtling through space over a huge speed, but we feel still. Like, I feel like I'm sitting here still on a chair right now. If you take a closer look at nature, it's like, oh wow, there's so much more than what we could even fathom. And yeah, that's extraordinary to me. That's what grounds me. If I'm ever I can't make sense of anything, I'll come back and I literally will look outside at the grass or a tree and remember, okay, nature, and that we're part of nature. We're human people living on the earth. We're part of that. And I think we forget that a lot of the time too. How about you?
Very, very similar. Definitely nature. And I suppose the other thing is I often ponder that I have this infinite intelligence within me, exactly the same as a beautiful rose. It's a little bud and it doesn't turn into anything else except a beautiful rose. And I've actually been pondering that quite a bit lately, and that I have that infinite intelligence within me. And what am I manifesting? Am I, manifesting or creating the best version of myself? Because that's definitely within me. I think the biggest thing that I've kind of am realizing is the power of stillness. Yeah, just sitting. And I often visualize my heart as that rose and just connecting with that rose within my heart and just seeing it opening. And that just, I don't know, for some reason recently, that's just really grounding me and bringing me back into the present moment, and also connecting then with my extraordinary true nature. So I think, for me, it's just presence. And I always love getting out in nature. Even yesterday, just feeling a little bit in my head, just taking my shoes off, getting out in the garden and just spending 5 minutes watering the garden, pulling some weeds out, just getting out in nature. And I think that always helps connect to that extraordinary within.
I love that. And I think a lot of people inherently know that when they stand outside, it does something to you because it's chemically changing the ions in your body, which we will get into conversations around those sorts of things. And also, I love what you just said. It's such a reminder of the infinite intelligence within you, but also around you. There is something that makes the trees green and the sand yellow or white. There's something that makes our heart beat. There's this infinite intelligence that's around us, but also living through us and within us. And yeah, that stuff to me is super extraordinary. So, but until we start to think about it, it's just normal. It might not seem extraordinary because it's normal. It seems ordinary. And that's what we mean when we look close. Wow, it really is. So
thank you. That's really beautiful. Yeah. So I think that's given our listeners a little bit of an overview in terms of what we mean in terms of the distinction between embracing extraordinary and embrace your extraordinary. That kind of really sets a great context for next episode to move into. Absolutely.
Thanks, honey.
Beautiful. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. We hope this conversation has inspired you to start to explore, expand, and embrace that extraordinary exists, is possible, and how extraordinary you truly are.
If you loved this conversation, we would be so grateful for you to share it with the people in your world who you think might love to hear it. Please leave a review to help us reach more extraordinary people like you and turn these ripples into waves.
Until next time, remember, you're extraordinary. Dare to embrace it.